So we are live. We haven't had our introduction. Today we have a guest. I am not even on the camera. It is, and this is what live streaming is about. So can you pull the camera back? Pull it back. Pull it back. There you go. There you go. Now, what you don't remember is last week we kind of had to move these seats over.
Welcome to Community Cuts. BK is in the house. Downtown Brooklyn, Kings County. We do have a marvelous show here today.
You got to turn your sound down. It's echoing.
What a true Brooklynite.
Is it Friday the 13th?
Yes, it is.
And that is why we're having craziness.
The weather realizes that it's Friday the 13th.
You know the.
So turn down the TV. It is echoing. As much as I want to be a twin, and my mother does not want me to be one, I can't hear it. There you go. So it's much better. So I think if I sit. There you go. So we can focus on the camera over there if you want to be looking in the camera every once in a while.
Where's the camera?
So the camera's right here, what he's holding.
Oh, okay.
Go back the other way. The other way. Keep going. A little bit more. No, turn back the other way. The other way, dude. Okay, now, but keep going. What are you doing? Fire the cameraman who owns the show. Keep going.
There you go.
There you go.
I don't know why it's not staying.
So
maybe because you're looking at the screen.
No, it's
I'm moving around.
Because it seems like it's slow.
Don't move it around because this is going to irritate me. Our lovely guest, Miss Brown, can you step down just for a second? I'm going to slide your chair a little closer to myself. Thank you, ma'am. Here you go. There you are. And I'm going to move your mic back.
Want me to get back in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now.
This is how we solve a problem, right?
Yes, ma'am. And now, the problem is, yes, sir. You can stand up, and this weeble wobble setup that we have here, I'm going to pull things over just a bit. This is what live streaming is all about.
What she said, this is what live streaming is all about.
I'm going to pull these two over. This is crazy. I think you should just sit in a regular seat.
I'd be so low.
That's okay. Leave it like that.
Hold on. Sit right here for a second.
Very good.
Okay.
There we go.
I'll sit right here. Ooh, woo! Sweating in the people's hair, I am. Okay. There's a little feedback.
But
Now he's going to readjust the camera.
when I start talking,
You're already talking. They can already hear you.
Oh.
It is streaming straight into the mic. This is just like we're sitting in our living room. And then if you can go back to the camera, sir, and we're going to readjust just a little bit. Look at the TV. It'll make it easier for you.
so
Readjust.
There you go.
You can leave it right there. Okay?
We are fine.
Ooh, the
and
people's
dandy.
hair is hot.
Yowza. Welcome to Community Cuts. We are here with our very own guest, Mrs. L.B. Brown from Clinton Hills Framing Arts Gallery. She is here on her own and doing what is good for her business. This is what we specify to businesses in Brooklyn.
Wow. That is the first time Rickie has ever done an introduction. That is awesome. I love it.
All right,
Welcome to Community Cuts BK, Miss Brown. I'd like to begin by first saying I am super inspired by the level of success that you've had with your small business in Clinton Hills. And by the way, could I get that newspaper, please? Thank you. So I'm looking
I
through.
feel so bad looking
This-
down at you.
Huh?
I feel bad looking down at you.
Oh, that's okay. I'm an Aries. I'm always up. So that's fine.
Okay.
For those of you who are, I imagine that our Times Press
This
may have,
year.
I'm gonna show it, Ricky.
No, all right.
In case you all haven't noticed, Miss Brown is Ricky's personal friend. He's making sure that we treat her very well today. If you are in the New York City area, or I'm sure if you can go online to our Time Press and look for the March 5th through 11th edition on page 5 at the bottom here, you'll see an article entitled Lurita Brown's Brooklyn Custom Frames Create Cherished Artworks. You guys all have my reading glasses, so I kind of studied there for a second. And with that said, I really would like to start off by asking, thinking about when you first began your entrepreneurial journey, what made you want to have your own small business versus maybe working full-time 9 to 5 for someone else? Because I think that takes a lot of courage.
Well, it wasn't so much as leaving a career to start an entrepreneurial venture. Within that career, you see a lot and you hear a lot. And since it was Ebony Magazine, we focused on the Black consumer market.
You worked at Ebony Magazine?
Well, it's in that article. I don't think you read it.
Well, for me though, I need you to tell the people outside. And that's kind of,
well-
so I read it, but I'm trying to pull these keywords for surprises for you guys.
Well, yeah. And so, everyone has a little hobby. And for me, I have been collecting art as a neighborhood kid. Growing up, we all have our thoughts about who we want to be and what we want to do. So the fellas all wanted to be musicians, basically.
Is something wrong? He wants you to face that way toward the camera. Yeah, I know polite thing is to look at the person that's speaking to you.
Yeah,
But in this world,
because usually it's there.
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
the opposite.
yeah, he
All
wants
right.
to make sure that people can see you.
All right. So now I am going to talk to the camera people.
Yes,
And I'm going to address a question that came from the right side
ma'am. Right.
to the front side. And it's really, some people, okay, is it?
No, it's
Okay.
So you guys, just to be fair, Miss Brown is joining us at the last minute. We didn't explain how our studio is set up, and we have a very large television set monitor over to the far right. Duke is standing behind the camera pointing to the monitor, and I think what he was trying to tell Miss Brown is that you can look straight ahead and you can glance up and see yourself on the monitor also if you want.
Okay. So we'll look at the camera and everybody else can look at the. So, So a little different for me is that I started collecting art as a kind of interest, special interest. And lucky that in a career, I could start collecting and buying Black masters, African-American masters. But besides that, I just enjoy art. So I'd go to museums, buy books and things like that. People go out on tennis courts or they, go out bowling alleys or they go out to bars, whatever. I was going to museums. And so fast forward, working at Ebony Magazine, and I think every home, African-American and others, had Ebony or grew up with Ebony Magazine. So, we were the leaders in terms of the culture and cultural behavior. In terms of working there, I had access to so much information, but I also was exposed to so much unfairness and injustice in
Mhm.
asking and talking to our consumers.
Can you elaborate on the injustice that happened to
Well,
you?
well, part of it is I was not a writer. I was in the advertising sales, which is where Mr. Johnson started the magazine.
That's
he
John
would-
Johnson.
That's John H. Johnson of Johnson Publications, and that was also the publisher of Jet, Ebony Man,
Mhm.
Fashion Fair.
There's two John Johnsons. There's
Yes,
two
that's-
John Johnsons. The one on ABC Chat Network, that is not the one she's speaking about. Is the John Johnson from the magazines. That's when you read the cover and his pictures in the news article.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So if you wanted to know what percentage of the Black population smoked cigarettes, we had access just like other media or white media had. White media said, we don't need to advertise because we reach Black consumers. And we would say, yes, you do.
Right.
But statistics say we reach a higher percentage of Blacks who we know smoke cigarettes. Okay. So you have to understand that was the environment in which I earned a career as well as earned a living from. So once I started looking around and watching behavior as it relates to the arts, something that struck me very strange is that poster art, prints and reproductions were usually historical, and that was coming from major consumer advertisers like your Nabisco, like your Johnson Products, that whole line. Now, we use detergent, we use soap, we
Right.
drink alcohol, we
Right.
drive cars.
Right.
Why are we just getting, oh, we hire Blacks? What is that about? So the lucky thing for me is that when I joined Ebony Magazine, I did come from 3M. I was at 3M, and that's another story as well. But luckily, I think I was really put in a direction of entrepreneurship just by being directly related to the boss. I mean, he talked to us as sales and I was an advertising executive there. He talked to us almost like his children. We were like his little lieutenants because that's how he started. He wasn't an editor. He started in that way. So he would talk to us in a manner in which they're not treating us fairly. When we go in and we show them stats on what our consumers buy and what they're doing, they want to give us certain ads. So I was more in the developmental area. So developmental meant you had access to tons of research and you had to do projections. What would this consumer buy? What would be their preference, and et cetera. And so for me, I'll tell you a little story too that was really cute.
Give us a time frame, 1970.
Well, I was at Ebony in the mid 80s. Okay. So I was myself and a number of my colleagues there were the last executives to report directly to Mr. Johnson. And that in itself to me was a blessing, to just his whole air and his sensitivity to us and almost treating us like his kids and saying, listen, they have to respect you. If you ever have any problems with them disrespecting you as representing me, you let me know and I can take care of it. And he sat on a lot of boards, but luckily we didn't have that problem. Maybe because they didn't want to hear from him. But in any event, the little story here is I had electronics and I had travel and I had athletic footwear. And so believe it or not, because we buy those products, right? But you didn't see advertisement. You saw cigarettes, you saw automotive, you saw alcohol.
Yeah. And before you continue your story, I think it's very important to look at what was happening then and also what is happening now, which a lot hasn't changed in terms
Absolutely.
of that market understanding the power and the value of the Black dollar.
That's right. You're absolutely correct. That makes me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But how did I get into the entrepreneur end? Is it was really funny in a way because I was in the East Coast office. We Ebony Magazine, well, Johnson Publications had 3 locations. People did not know that. The corporate office was in Chicago.
Mhm.
And there was a West Coast that handled everything coming out of Hollywood and anything on the West Coast. And the East Coast was everything that was covering the North to South and the Caribbean. So obviously, New York City being a hub of culture, anything that had to do with Africa, African Americans, art, music, then they'd say, you're the one.
Mhm.
If it's worth covering, then we'll send a writer or a writer will contact them. So it was a bonus for me in a way because this was the hub. Rockefeller Center was the hub. Midtown Manhattan was the hub. And so to that end, I could see how respected our consumer market was by those people who really understood what we were doing. But when we went out to talk to the white ad agencies, to talk to their marketing executives and tell them what projections were, why you should be doing this, it was like, well, we don't have any money in the budget for that right now. And that can be, I can't express the emotions when you know better.
That drives
Okay.
me nuts.
Yes, because you want to shake the consumer and say, activate selective purchasing, don't buy.
Right.
Because-
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I was going to say, that's what our frustration was. How can we mobilize the Black consumer who buys? We know what they do.
And we know the power of
The
dollar.
power of the dollar. But as a collective or as a movement, it doesn't really, then in the 80s, it didn't really hold up. But where was I going with this? Well, for me, knowing that, being exposed to it, having that as my background, I knew that with music, there's going to be art. And I know for myself, I would attend some of the festivals, some of the annual events, and I would see the posters that had positive images. You know, everybody was alive. Nobody was dead. It wasn't about the history. It wasn't about that. It was about what's happening now, positive. And also African images and paintings that we would never be able to afford, but it was there in a poster form. So after the festival left, I started thinking, well, what happened to these posters? There must be a business. Somebody is doing something. And no, it wasn't. And so I kind of watched that, and I started watching the stats. And then I realized in the advertising sales area, when you're looking at what we call special markets, whether it's Hispanics or Black market, that demographics have its place.
Mhm.
But psychographics is what we control. We know what we do.
But for people who don't know, because there are some novices who are listening, what is psychographics?
Psychographics is a type of research that you would do on a group of people or culture. What is it that they do that can be measured? And it has to do with preferences, cultural preferences.
Mhm.
I can kind of go on about that, but basically it's a behavior as opposed to income and housing and racial breakup. It's about that. Now, the interesting thing about us is that there is a large and growing segment of people who are culturally savvy, who are culturally aware. They pass that on to their family. They make a conscious effort to buy from cultural events. And that supports the vendor economically, but it also fulfills what they want to bring in their home. Okay? Now, when it comes to artwork on paper, which is an entry level to buying art. For myself, I never really bought paper. I didn't really have to. Well, I did buy paper. It was masters, people like the Romare Beard and one of my favorite. Now I see his face. Now I can't say it, but people were. I'm going to address something about throwing out art, but these were people who, during the 1920s and the 30s, suffered so much racism, and in their art form and their expression, trying to show the current events, what Blacks were doing in the 20s. There was a lot of socialization, there was upscale, there was people. It wasn't always depressed. It wasn't always in the cotton field. It wasn't always the dead masters and someone benefiting from
Billie
it.
Holiday's music.
Exactly. All of that your key people, in terms of the artists, they left America and went to France. That's where that whole entertainment as well as the art community went and felt the freedom there to express themselves. During that period, their artwork was very, it's expensive. It has value. But it's very rare for us to collect it because it was collected by other people, our history.
Right.
But there were posters being made.
Yep.
The posters that were being made was a result of museums who would do retrospectives, maybe during Black History Month, maybe because it was the she thing to do. There's a lot of politics behind auctions and ethnic art, and I could go on with that. So I saw that in my eye. But I'm still looking at, wait a minute, we have a new generation that's growing up in a home that they're culturally aware of, and they're going to be older or they're going to college. And the college students, it's no secret, doesn't matter what their race or gender is, they're going to buy posters.
Put on the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that grassroots was already growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I started investigating, why isn't there a business that people can go to at their convenience after these festivals and buy their imagery? Again, the psychographics is there, and I was amazed. There was none. It was just the museums that would what do you call it? We would curate a show, and they would include rare pieces of some of our painters
Yes, I remember.
who suffered so much. I mean, well, there
James
were
Baldwin itself. I am not your Negro.
yeah,
The film he put out, that was a backup of his life, of what he did during the times he was in Paris.
that's right. That was during the period too. The musicians were there, the literary bunch, and the painters.
Yes, they all were in the film.
Yeah, they kind of were accepted and had a type of creative freedom. And artists, I'm talking painters now, artists are always expressing themselves, but they're also documenting our history, what they're going through and what they're feeling. And that's very relatable, but it's also very collectible. And we don't know how to collect. We will devalue anything that we don't recognize, and we're still doing it. In fact, I can see that in a different clientele. But for me to answer your question, entrepreneurial end, having that experience at Ebony and understanding how the consumerism engine works and how it works against us, we're behind the scenes. So a lot of the consumers didn't understand that. They want to buy Tide to clean their clothes because they're watching TV and it says Tide. And so first thing they reach for is Tide, but they don't realize Tide is not advertising in medias that give you your culture, that give you your information. They don't just fall in there. They tell us they don't believe you exist. We know you exist. So having that as a foundation, working with a brilliant mind, even in his older years, he had a real passion about what he did. And he tried to pass that off to us in a way that you represent a people. And so a people who are being devalued, but we're going to try to change that. And so with that in mind, and with my personal passion in mind, and saying, well, we've got another generation coming up.
Yep.
So they're going to start to buy, and they're going to be exposed to images that they enjoy, to see themselves at play, going to church, dressed up in their finest wear, all of the lifestyles that was current in the 80s. And guess what happened? What happened was there were more Black sitcoms on television through the late 70s, through the 80s. And I mean, we all laughed at Sanford and Son, but he was a junk man who collected, right?
Right.
We don't do that. We literally throw it out on the street. At least he was a junk man who collected, and that was his.
Well, Clinton Hills is famous for the junkyards. Remember those days?
No, well, not me, but
They had one on Grant, one on Lafayette. Junkyard, the junk trucks. They sell meat. The meat was packed up on a truck, and they just go down the avenue, and the meat here. People would buy the meat, you know. So it's
well,
a cultural background of Clinton Hills. That's you, and she's from that. She's an example that's great just to see.
You know, in listening to you speak and having read some of the words and thinking about myself, I know everybody knows I'm forever 21, but I remember being in middle school. I think I was in the 6th grade. And my mother, I grew up in a single family home. My parents separated when I was very young. I was 8, and my brother was 3. And my mother took me to my first concert. And when you talk about print work, I remember all the magazines. And I literally had not thought about them until right now when you started speaking. Sister, Right On magazine.
That's right.
Ebony Jet, Solid Gold, you know, all of these things. But one of the things that I used to get in trouble for a lot, no one could go in my room because I had posters on my walls and on my floors. You literally had to walk in a straight line to come into my room. And in thinking about what you're saying about back then and looking at where we are today and how media has transformed and how our community, we do have a lot more people who are, you know, the finger snapping groups and people who love art and people who are collecting. But one of the most painful things for me, I went to Drexel in Philly. When I moved to New York, I left a lot of my things in an apartment where I was paying the rent, and I sublet it. And the person has some type of event that happened in the apartment, and a lot of my artwork that I collected while I was at college, I was lost. I worked for this African boutique called Chic Afrique. And it was my first kind of adult exposure into art, way to supplement income while I was in school. I had all types of paintings, but I never really thought about it in the way that you're describing it. And it hurts me when I think about now how we view media, and there are these international struggles now of us trying to get back art that originally came from Africa.
That's right.
And how it goes over into fashion, and the print that Versace uses is originally from Africa as well. But you said something earlier on about these people, about people not understanding the value of the dollar in the Black community, and us not being able to do things collectively. It took me to what women of color started beginning the end of last year, beginning of this year, with the boycott of Target, right? Because Target wanted to remove DEI and those predominantly Black women-owned brands who were not being able to
Mhm.
continue having their things there. And earlier this week, one of a very prominent reverend yesterday, as a matter of fact, made an official announcement that the Target boycott was over. And social media kind of went into an uproar. And it was about some women of color coming out saying, hey, this is actually our movement.
Wow.
You can't say that it's over. So
Right.
we still collectively are trying to harness our power. And one of the things that I'm seeing in a more local area, if you walk down any street in New York City, and I didn't grow up here. I moved to New York 99, 2000, and I've
Okay.
watched gentrification happen, which for me began earlier than a lot of people are letting on. So after 9/11, I worked at World Trade Center. We
Mhm.
immediately saw people move from the Tribecas and come
Right.
across the bridge, and that's when they invented those areas like Dumbo, Vinegar Hill.
Uh-huh.
Gentrification really has been going on since
It has. I being in the Clinton Hill neighborhood and opening the, not to interrupt you, but to say, I understand exactly what you're saying. The benefit of being in a neighborhood as a small business or as an entrepreneur with brick and mortar is you, depending on your product or service, you get to see the change before the neighborhood actually see, because you know who's moving in. In my case, because of the art and framing end of the business, which I fast forward in that, it's not only moving from other communities, it's about renaming parts of
Yes.
Brooklyn as well.
And
And
Yes.
so people, doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, you move into a neighborhood, somebody's going to break your glass.
yes.
Somebody's going to break something, or something's going to go missing. You know?
And it doesn't even matter what neighborhood you moved into, because I moved from Mill Basin into East New York in a brand new construction because I wanted to save money to buy a home. This was during the mortgage debacle, 2007, 2008. Moved in, someone literally broke the back glass window on my little convertible, didn't steal anything. And I was outside in front of my apartment crying, and there was another guy with a convertible car, and he said, hey, I moved here last year and they did the same thing to me. And
So welcome to the club,
yeah,
right?
so it's about that change, but bringing it back to what you're saying and where I'm going in terms of small businesses, it has completely broken my heart. I've had a car since I was 16. And the last couple of years, I don't have access to a vehicle. So I'm walking more.
Yeah.
The amount of mom and pop shops, regardless to if they're Black, brown, or otherwise,
Right.
that are closing in our different areas is really scary to me. So that's another reason why.
I can address that, and you've triggered something here. As we move through the decades, mom and pop, in my opinion, does not exist. That was something that was given to small merchants who were immigrants, because immigrants came over with their family and they brought a skill, a talent, their culture, serving their community as well as the greater community. And it was always a mom and pop operation. The structure itself, in terms of commercial space on the bottom, that was the business.
Right.
Above that was where mom and pop lived. Above that was where the children lived.
Mixed use.
Okay, exactly. That's where it came from. So we, in this community of Brooklyn, there are a lot of those residential structures, commercial, mixed use is how we're being taxed. Okay? That affects the commercial space because ownership is usually not the retailer, It is maybe second, third generation that has no connection with the neighborhood whatsoever.
Except for the ownership of the structure.
Exactly. And so when they are approached, do you know you can get X amount of dollars in rent because of the location? They have no connection. So the first thing they're going to say is, what I have to do?
Yep.
Well, you got to get rid of that commercial space because you're not getting fair market value. That attracts outside people.
And greedy inside people.
Absolutely.
I want to be clear for those who are watching and may see this at a later date. Gentrification, I see a lot of people blaming outside people for everything, or people who don't look like them for everything. That is not true. Real estate is a very, very hot commodity, and sometimes it's your very best friend that is doing it. And just to let you carry on, but give a perfect example, Flatbush Avenue, I think it's the corner of Dean Street, close to the Barclays, is a Gino's Pizzeria that's been there over 40 years. It recently closed its door. And on the sign, on the window, they thank everyone for the business and let people know they're closed. And I was saying to myself, where did this place go? And when I did research, they actually closed their doors because their rent increase in an effort to get them out went from $5,000 a month to $25,000 a month for that location. And so sometimes you can't get people to close down their businesses. They have a contract, they have a lease, and those leases and sometimes are 5-10 years. But the easiest way to get people out that I'm seeing is that these commercial renters who really want to make $1, and part of you says, I understand you want to make $1, and the other part is saying, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to that family?
Right.
They're raising the rents up so that they can evict people, and it's horrible. But one more point that I think is really important when you talk about the power of the dollar and making an effort to spend your dollar. One of the things I've heard since I was a kid is that people of color do not allow their dollar to stay in their community long enough for the community to benefit from it. And the amount of Black and brown, and then we're also prideful, right? So our small business owners also are not, although some are learning, are not easily sharing the struggle so that we could say, hey, this week, let's all go to such and such a store, buy one thing, right? And that to me is really scary as well.
Well, I'm going to address something as from my experience, and it's gone through the decades. When I first started, so you heard a little bit about the career history. The part of that is once I got into the industry and said, I know where this is going. I see it on television. Subconsciously, they're taking in Black images from these Black sitcoms. Now we've got 2 and 3 generations living in a household, as you properly said. They're exposed to the artwork through posters and things that they embrace. So they're going to be 10 years older. They're going to now be in their 20s and their 30s, and they're going to start to look for things of value. With that said, I decided that I want to talk to the people because you do have the power. And I know that these posters exist, so you're going to affect an industry. You're going to affect the art industry, and you're going to affect the framing industry in the future. They're Black artists who are great, who understood the racism that they were suffering. So they would put their money into printing. They would do the street festivals. I didn't know that. I'm busy trying to bring dignity and value to a greater consumer market. And I didn't realize that's how they got it. And I said, well, because I met one fellow, West Indian, and he really opened it up to me, how they were surviving and getting the image out it was word of mouth.
Mhm.
And if you went to the West Indian Day Parade and you
Yes.
bought posters or prints there and you were helping the artist, you would tell your friend, oh, they come over, they have dinner with you, have, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And, oh, where did you get that? Oh, I put it in there. So they're going to go the next year.
That is true.
All right. So now I was educated just from that exposure. And I said, well, wait a minute. These people are printing Black images. And they said, yeah, but they don't want us.
Right.
These are the publishers. They won't even talk to us.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. It is a never
Here we go
cycle.
again.
Never ending.
What is this?
Never
And so then I started exploring that. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to open a business like this. I mean, I would like to try this as, we always have a side thing. So for me, I'm happy. Ebony is good to me. And I've got a person that I never thought I would ever meet. And I grew up in the home with Ebony Magazine. And now here I am.
Right.
Mr. Johnson's office building in Chicago had nothing but Black masters, original ones,
And
in the office.
can I ask
building.
a silly question? Although I know the answer, we may have a viewer. A lot of our young people, middle-aged and older people, are into art.
Okay.
I've heard you say this term twice: Black masters, African American masters. What does that term mean?
Okay. Well, you would basically, it's if I say Black or anyone says Black, it is of the African diaspora, clearly, because there's always Black American. Okay. But in fact, there's not always that born Black American.
Right.
Okay. Then we talk African American. Okay. For the Black market, we refer to as African Americans. But in fact, there are Africans from Africa who have their citizenship, and they don't call themselves African Americans. They call themselves Africans. Okay. So it's about generation, about exposure, about culture that it changes. It's no different than you've heard of Negroes,
Yeah, and colored.
colored,
Right.
and what was the next one? The next one was African American.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And but I will say this to you: it depends on are you born here?
Mhm.
Then it's legitimate to say I'm an American.
Mhm.
But society doesn't allow us to say we are Americans.
Yeah.
We have to be identified as Africans,
Mhm.
which is also what I have found. Definition changes with the decades, and it changes with the population as well. I grew up in a home that we were Negroes.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I also came of age and I was an African American.
Right. The box is
Yeah, and
forever revolved.
Exactly. And I also grew up in a home where I straightened my hair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, straighten my hair. And then I also was going out one day, and I think my mother was the instigator to this. She likes this Afro thing, but my
Yeah.
father never really
Oh.
saw, he didn't pay any attention.
Right.
So one day, Black is Beautiful was a part of my New York City. That's right. You
Yeah.
know it.
Mhm.
And the whole
song
Northern
is-
thing.
yeah.
So I became a Black American,
Mhm.
power to the people bunch. And I never forget this. My father said to me, and to me, I'm comfortable because I've been doing that.
Mhm.
And he said, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going out to meet, whoever at that time. And he said, no, you're not. And I was stopped in my tracks.
Well, there
It
you
was
go.
like, I'm like,
But why
Yeah.
not?
like I can tolerate this Black thing,
Mhm.
but you're not going out there with that nappy head.
Mm.
Yes.
And to be honest with you,
Mhm.
that was the first time I defied my father. I don't know. I don't know. I probably was something like 16,
Mhm.
17-ish. I don't know. That was the thing for some of us.
Mhm.
There was some that still wanted to do their hair straight. But for
Mhm.
some of us that was socially conscious, it's like, hey, power to the people. And I said, but I'm just going out. And he says, no, you're going to straighten your hair if you think you're going out. And I said, I'm not straightening my hair.
And
Wow.
I think that's a huge point. I remember being trained. I went to Barbizon School for Modeling. My mom put me in etiquette and dance class.
Very important, and we don't have that now. Very important.
Very hard to find. And I remember being taught how, and this is that whole Crown Act and how some of us have to get back to where we are. And I'm saying that while I'm wearing the people's hair. I'm a very proud Black woman. But being told that at a certain point it is expected that you wear a certain amount of makeup in corporate America, not being barefaced, which isn't within our nature. The difference in importance to perm in your hair. I wore these big, beautiful puff balls. So I was like in 6th grade, and I got a perm after that. But I wanted to ask a more specific question. And coming from your background, it probably doesn't seem like a necessary definition. So there are some of us who don't know anything about art. But the word masters, right? As it pertains to what you're saying. And I know there are people in the music industry who understand the importance for musical artists to own their masters. But I was
that's different.
Yeah,
That's
but
different.
I was asking,
Okay.
when you say, we as a whole, we don't collect African American masters, or you have African American masters or Black masters. I want people to understand what masters mean in that sense.
Okay.
I don't think they realize we have masters.
Well, masters in the art world is a kind of definition for at what entry level is an artist. You may have heard emerging. You may have heard beginner or early career. Those are people in a certain age group that may not be formally trained, meaning gone to college and what have you, but they are producing artwork that's sellable. They don't have, they're not going to have any kind of representation. It's just family and friends that may encourage them to continue or discourage them. So it has to do with the age profile as well as their passion that one day I want to be a master. So they will study people like Elizabeth Catlett. She's a master, no longer with us too. There's William H. Johnson. He went to Europe. In fact, he ended up in Denmark and painted more on an expressionism level. He is considered a master, but at that time he wasn't a master. So it's about age, it's about education, and it's about being sellable. Sellable means you have a dealer or you have that. Back in those days, I'm talking like 20s and 30s now, but not about emerging. That's present as well. But I'm saying how it graduated. Those people did not have any type of representation in terms of a dealer that would put them firmly into the art market. Art at that time was for the wealthy, for the affluent, for the cultured ones, and that we were left out of. The only way we knew about that is our middle class who fell in that, who were the chauffeurs, the maids. That was middle class living during that time. And they were exposed to the finer things, whether it was furniture, period furniture, whether it was artwork. They could look at themselves to what their whatever they was calling them, I almost went back to where I was getting ready to go.
I know, but it's
I want to finish this though. Now, today's terms, in contemporary terms, it's still being used. However, they're mid-career. Mid-career has gone through that, but they could be considered a master painter. When you're people of color, and particularly females, that's another discussion about female artists and how the racism and sexism kept women in general who were brilliant painters, who were formally trained. you would need a dealer or an art gallery behind you. Now we're moving into the 50s. We're moving from right after the war, 40s to 50s, where the more affluent whites started becoming dealers and opening galleries. And those who had a sensitivity to the oppression of the Black artists in America, they opened foundations that became nonprofits.
Yes.
And they supplied the artists. Now, most artists have such a passion about their art that, yeah, they got to survive. But the point is, they'll paint,
Yeah.
they'll sculpt.
So they want to get it out. And
Exactly.
Right.
And so these foundations, they was taking ownership.
Yeah. And still are.
This is true. This is true. So to the point of the influence of the dollar and the control that we have, we were kind of left out of that last frontier of our culture. And that was the visual arts or the fine arts.
I know.
So the masters, as we refer to them now, has to do with age. And some of them have moved into representation by Black owned, or most of it is white owned galleries. Because why? They're up in the 80s now. So, come on.
Yeah.
Half the time they can't.
Yeah,
Well, you can't really, it's a physical thing. Artists would talk to me about the things that they go through over the years. I knew it. That's why I was pretty much passionate about the beginner end. So to your point, you can hear different definitions. It depends on the age, it depends on the education, it depends on the exposure, and it depends on who represents them. Most of the masters, their work finds its way in the auction houses. So exactly, and Christie's too, exactly. So the more affluent Blacks, the professionals and the business owners, they're starting to go to the auction house because they're starting to do what I did when I entered it. Is I happen to enjoy this. This is my pleasure. So they go to the museum openings, they join the museums, they get the art books, they learn more about the art game, but with a sensitivity to Black art. And they understand that. Now move forward with what I'm doing, again, ahead of the curve, is that in custom framing, there are different levels. Most of us think to the point of Target. I have something I want to frame. Oh, I see a whole row for, that's right. I'm going to put it in and, buy this and that's good enough. I can hang it on the wall. In the story.
Right.
You are not going to put a $5,000 painting in a Target frame. That doesn't happen. But it could happen with us.
Yeah.
You see? Because as far as we're concerned, we don't know a custom framer. We don't even know what they do. We don't even think we're going to go to one because they may not welcome us.
They can't tell acrylic from household paint.
Exactly.
Well, I have some friends, so let me just add in because I don't want to hear any stuff. There are a lot of people who do no custom frames, but I was going to make a different joke that a lot of us in the economy over years, it takes our last dollar just to get that piece. And so we may spend money on the piece itself and not spend the extra money for the beautiful frame or the custom frame.
Thank you.
I do want to say I remember I like a lot of people that I know. I didn't grow up here. My parents collect art. When I was, one of my most fond memories when my parents separated at 8, my mother paid for our house. My mother had a mural drawn on the wall.
Okay.
My mother is a dark skinned AKA.
Okay.
And originally from Memphis, Tennessee. And for me, if you know the history of sororities, you understand that AKAs typically, there was a saying, they have to pass the brown paper bag.
I have younger cousins that are part of the sorority.
And so
bunch.
my mother's a very dark skinned woman. She's a math major, graduated second in her class. But art for me has meant something since I was very young.
Sure.
I do remember being young, and my mother will say, being mad about the mural that was being drawn because the artist was a male, and I wasn't used to seeing another male around my mom.
Okay.
But I want for us while we're at this part of the conversation for you to say the name of your custom framing business again, because I have quite a few friends who are accomplished artists who have paintings that they sell in a wide variety of places. And I don't want that demographic to say, oh, Donnatella, you sat there like you don't know anybody who knows what custom framing
Okay, but I'm going to break this down for you because this is very important. Okay, because you've raised a point that our community, our ethnicity, it's natural for them. But your same demographics of others are ahead of us, okay? Because they know the value of their artwork. And they know that that valuable artwork will decrease if it's not framed properly. And properly is not always making it look pretty, okay? So the process that I had to go through to get to this, I did not lay back and dream and say, I want to be a custom framer. That was not. But I had to save a business to do that. And to do that meant I turned around and there were no custom framers that understood the level in which I needed to move into. Predominantly, it was a male industry, and it still is. It is a control industry worth billions of dollars. It is a diverse one, meaning custom framers today have certain specialties. Some people will say, well, do you do this? I know that because what I had to do and what I want to express to everyone here is anything that you make or anything that you buy has an industry connected to it.
Right.
Okay? There's a certain amount of money that's going to be generated by that industry, which means that the industry will give you information through their conventions, through their seminars, through their classes. It's not open to the public. It's open to ownership. You get to get almost free information, free marketing, because they're telling you where they're controlling the industry, where they're pushing the industry, where they're going with it. Most people don't do that, but I had to do it because my business had evolved from ethnic art on paper, which I wanted to get to. I could not find enough Black images to even open a business. So I was thinking about it and I said, well, who mirrors the Black population? Caribbean Americans, Native Americans, Latinos. And then I had to do the same thing. So when I opened the paper part of it, the paper part became African American, Caribbean Americans, Latin Americans, and Native Americans. Then I could open with the paper end of it. I got a call from a person that doesn't look like me, who I will say, actually a Pakistani community. That's another kind of cultural custom framers. Anybody who was brown, trust me, Bangladesh or that was back in the 90s. Well, I used to have my work framed by him, who gave me a call and said, I hear you're opening a gallery. What type of gallery are you opening? Because, I collected fine art paintings on paper. I've always been a paper person, by the way. And that's the easiest way to find masters as well. But he said to me, this is true. He said, oh, so you're going to do, he said, that's a pretty smart move because those people, I see them bringing in work and they want to have something framed by us. So you're going to offer framing. And I said, no. You're not going to offer framing? I said, no, I don't know anything about framing. Why would I do that? He said, well, one of the reasons why you would do that is when your people come to buy poster art and art on paper from me, from you, they're going to come to me for custom framing. And I said, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why would I do that? Let me just finish it. So I said, okay, but I don't know anything about framing. He said, the very important point, that's what I said. He said, you got to think like a boss. You don't have to know everything. You hire people who know how to do that. And I often said, I think he does this because he made a lot of money off of me when I didn't know anything about framing. I just went in and gave it to him and said, "Can you just frame that for me?" He said, "Okay, sure." Guess what? I had to have a lot of my paper restored because he didn't know anything about preservation framing.
Yeah.
That is what I'm doing. That is why the industry recognizes me, because I'm very few people own female in a district. Not only that, in the Northeast. And they think nationally, there's crazy people there. And you're from Brooklyn too? And you're this and that? And I gotta tell you, I feel and felt, and in some instances still do, feel very uncomfortable there. When I take seminars. So I had to learn, which is okay with me. And I just
Do
said,
you lecture?
I have. Well, no, I haven't lectured. I've been on panel discussions, because
you should be. You're on the top of the list. So I'm pretty sure.
I think,
well, the
and I
clarity
feel-
and the definition, as I was saying earlier, is what our people need.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because if they want to
This
learn
is-
like you,
This is a lecture, actually.
Yeah.
We could splice this video, make it a course, and sell it online. To be honest,
That's true.
this is an entrepreneur.
yeah.
This is what you do. Where's the market? This is what I did.
Yeah.
Where's the
But
market?
you-
What's the projection? Who
but-
needs it? And I can tell you, they need it.
But even just in public speaking, right? I can't even say as a small business owner, I feel that pocket is too tight for the knowledge that you just bestowed upon us, right? There is the entire longevity of you as a woman doing what you're doing, you as a woman of color, you as a woman, the things that you've experienced in corporate America, right? You as a woman who's watched things change right before your eyes in a very prominent area of New York. Like you're in Clinton Hill. So I could see 45-minute conversations where you are doing public speaking in the local school system, because I was very surprised when I moved to New York and I found out that a large majority of young Black boys drop out of high school before the age 16.
Yeah, that's a sad thing, because go ahead.
But the other thing is, I think we as a people don't understand how profound we are, but we also don't tell each other,
Yep.
right? And so I think I want to
That
applaud
is-
what you just said.
That is the
about
foray of
lectures.
black people, that they don't really have to.
Well, I think
They don't really have to. If they do, it's just dropped on the floor. But they don't really
I
have to.
think we aren't. So as a Black woman, women in my age group, I find that a lot of women view each other more as competition other than a sisterhood.
Yeah.
Right. And I have to say, I see the same thing.
It's a perception. I
Right.
agree
It's a
with you.
perception, yeah.
Because what happens here, I want to tell you how I feel about this, if I can tell you my experience.
Yeah,
Because
please.
when the business was doing very well, starting off, it was like a wild train. It just ran once. People just were so excited about this that I had a diverse group of people, as well as artists, early career, and I had to kind of navigate who needs this information, who understands that, who just wants to be a part of. You see, one of the things that hasn't changed with us is we always live at least above our income level.
Yes.
Mm.
So it's about an image.
Mhm.
So even if you spoke to people, you could touch some people, but others you will not touch because they're not ready for that. That's why our culture and it being around us is just so important, and we don't embrace it. Other people know that. That's how you control people. Give them the image that they want. But there are what I see now, it is falling back to psychographics. There are Blacks that come in who have the money, who have the expertise, who have the interest, but they just fall short of absolutely understanding now you have to protect it. You don't go out and buy a luxury car and leave it in your driveway. You put it in your garage. That protects it.
So
If you don't, if you want to buy that car, you need to be able to put it in a garage. You see?
Yeah.
So my friends say that, and I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I have a whole set of friends. I've lived in now my fifth, what they would call luxury apartment.
Okay.
Or you think about how much rent is in New York, and some of my friends will say to me, that rent is a mortgage. Why would you spend so much on rent instead of a mortgage? Or, driving a convertible vehicle to park it on the street in New York City, which for a lot of people is unfathomable. But at the same time, I have another group of people, they're like, why would you even buy a car in their subways? I'm scared to death of New York subways.
Yeah.
I get on them. But I hear what you're saying.
I want to address something about saving as well, because yes, we have some real expenses and we like to treat ourselves. There are people who know how to do that and there are people who don't. So when it comes to art, when it comes to purchasing the type of framing, see, I'm an odd bird. I'm just going to say this. I'm very odd. You cannot learn what I do. Part of it is a feeling because I know art and I can just size up what this artist is trying to say, where you may purchase the painting and say, I love it. I just get a great feeling. I mean, it just tells me everything. You can't really articulate that feeling, but you know it. And I can see that that's genuine because that is what the artist is telling me. So with my knowledge in the different styles, the different period frame, what's hot on the market, what's not, who will fit in this demographic, you're talking to me with your body language and your art. And then when you say to me oh, let me show you my room. No, I'm not an interior designer. I don't need to see it. It looks nice. I see a little Afrocentric stuff. But then I'll say, so how many inches do you think that is? Oh, I don't know. Well, you're living there every day. Now I'm supposed to know that, right? Okay. Now, on the other hand, the same person, the same demographics, let's just say that racial is different. They'll come in and they'll say, I want a frame that looks XYZ. And this is, I'm waiting for it now, because what they do is they'll put a ruler next to it and they'll say, it looks like, I said, yeah, it's about 2 inches. Okay, I know what it is. I can go pull. Oh, that's what you want to fill that space.
That's why I like going to her shop. That's why I like going
to so it's not a black thing.
Yeah.
It's an
emotional thing. Yeah.
It's a demographic. It's not demographics as much as it is psychographics.
Yeah.
Because now they're embracing their culture.
I cannot wait to come.
Very.
Well, but the other part too, I do want to express this, is definition. Like, you have to accept the fact that we are in the digital age now. So yes, exactly. We're in a digital age.
NFTs and things of that nature.
Well, not only, that's another conversation. I could talk about that, but I want you to understand the periods because most people don't get it. We are in a different century or a quarter into a century. We are in a digital age. COVID did a fast forward with people staying at home. Why was my business successful during that time? And I didn't have labor because people was, freezing up. They was tired of having a blank wall or something up there. I can't put my plant is dying because I can't get it watered. So they want to
realize they had nothing inside.
That's right. So they wanted something behind them to set it up. They had to have something
for the streaming.
No, exactly. Yeah, right. Again, society changes as we move forward in different cultural. It had nothing to do with black or white. It had to do with people shed in. But what it did affect us more is that we were sitting there being bored, going all over the world, looking and looking and looking, and saying, hey, I like that art. Hey, I like this. So our African Americans, or people of color, were being exposed to artwork around the world that they could relate to, whether it was a black skin, a light skin, a mulatto, or whether it was African getup, whether it was this. People identified with that, and guess what they did? They bought. Boom, they bought. Didn't know a thing about the size. Got it in a tube.
I remember.
And said, I got to get it framed. No, I got to get it framed. Where do I go? So some were open, some were not. I followed the restaurants based on what Adams wanted us to do. I followed the restaurants. I said, they open, I'm open.
Yeah.
And first time in my history, I had a line outside my door, down the block in front of the pizzeria. And when I saw people beyond my display window, I said, well, what are they in line for? I thought they're going in the opposite direction or something.
Right.
The pizzeria is over there. This is me, but they was facing us. And I said, excuse me. I walked to the door and I said, I didn't see nothing but tubes, all different colors,
Pratt.
black, white, whatever,
Pratt,
with the tubes. No, it wasn't Pratt.
Wasn't Pratt?
No, these were people who owned or who
my
lived in the
God.
Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Bed-Stuy area who was doing just that. I stepped out there and I said, I'm going to die. There ain't no way I can handle all of this. And I said, wait a minute. I couldn't get it together. I said, are y'all standing? Yes. And I'm like, what in the world is going on
That's
here?
a good point you made. There are people
That's
who
successful.
traveled during the pandemic. They were going to places they couldn't even pronounce because of what they were seeing on social media. And also out of fear. There were a lot of emotional purchases
That's
made
right.
during the pandemic. And as I sit here, I have to be very honest with you guys when I look into the camera and say, I have 3 or 4 paintings at home in my apartment that have been without a frame for many, many
Not good.
years.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, my grandmother passed. And I had an oil painting commissioned for her. It's not framed, but it's not framed because I understand the importance of having a good frame. And I could not afford the framing.
No,
that needed
not
to go
true.
on
That's
the
not
painting.
true.
Now I'm just explaining for me the way I felt. For one,
Misinformation.
I have not been into a Black owned custom framing shop. In my head, there used to be one off of 5th Avenue that I used to see all the time at work. And I went in once to get a framing for a large painting. And the one that I wanted, I couldn't afford. And so for me, it didn't become relevant. My paintings were actually hung up. They didn't even have like a regular frame on it, but this has been very educational. And it's partly because when I go home to my parents' home, they have all these different paintings from all over the world and rugs that are in these nice, elaborate framings. And now I realize that I have been underserving myself, right? And so along with a lot of other people, and we don't want to scare Miss Brown, but we probably need that line back outside her shop.
One more question about Mrs. Brown. We don't want to keep her here all night long.
You always complain about leaving. I'm telling you guys, Rickie has a hot date after this show every Friday. But that is true. We do want you to come back. Usually the show is an hour. I know we've been talking longer than an hour.
Well, it's information that's usually kept from us, or people who don't want to share it, or people who don't know how to articulate it. But I will guarantee you that there are people who are saying, this is what I needed to hear.
Absolutely.
And we're in a different area. So the business is Clinton Hill Simply Art and Framing, located at 583 Myrtle Avenue. Now that's the cross street is Classen, so a lot of people get lost. I will say you need to look up Google preservation framing, because what we're trying to do there, and some of the handicap that I do have. First, I'd like to encourage anyone who has an interest in the cultural arts, particularly the visual arts, look at the custom picture framing area for this simple reason. The door has been open. There are people of color who are framers, but they're not recognized by the industry. Until the industry recognizes you, you really don't exist. And that's a lot of reasons for that. And you're going to lose. We need to get more people in that area because the artwork is there.
Oh, I see.
The education is there. People now, like I said, there are young Blacks who have made it. In other words, some of them have six figures.
Mhm.
And the last frontier of cultural savvy is to have this painting that you paid $20,000 for on your wall. You are not going to go to any framer because of this. If that framer is not sensitive to your culture and has the professional picture framing exposure, they will do just as much damage as you do by not framing it. The key here is framing is a structure. And one of the things that I have been a big supporter of is that our air quality is changing and we don't understand that. It is changing indoors and outdoors. We are bringing in and living with a lot of pollutants in our home. So anything that once lived, fiber, wood, is going to be subjected to our living environment. That's where you have to have a specialist there.
We
When
had
you
a good
said
conversation
preservation
about
framing,
that.
that's not a place, that's a type of thing that you're
That
saying.
is, that's just like a Toyota, what is it called?
Toyota.
Toyota. I
Toyota.
can't even pronounce that
That's
thing.
right, Toyota
Toyota.
Camry.
Because I don't even want to get in one of those, but to a Land Rover. In
Okay.
other words, preservation framing simply means that you're using the highest quality materials that the manufacturer has produced to protect certain artwork.
Okay.
So there's certain framing structures that will offset environmental changes. Like, for instance, you're not going to acquire, maybe you've acquired some artwork and you said, look, it's been in my family, it's passed on to me. I know it has value. You take it to an appraiser and they say, bingo, it does have value. Now they'll say, you can put that in auction. Now you're starting legacy. You're starting wealth. You have that option. Exactly. And so now you say, okay, I'm going to put it in the auction. You go to the auction house and listen, I'm going to put this in the auction. I know I've had it appraised. They said, yeah, but you're not going to get that money.
Because it's not framed properly.
Exactly.
Okay. And
Exactly.
do you do preservation framing?
That's what I specialize. I'm one of the few that specialize in
So I
that.
want
For
to,
residential,
okay.
there are those that specialize, but
For
they deal
commercial.
with
Correct.
exactly.
Okay, so I wanted to be clear because when you said you wanted people to get into or go to, I wasn't sure if you were telling us to go somewhere else. So
No.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship. I am
Yeah.
pro-business. That is where we need to be. Find your passion.
Mhm.
Take a leap. You don't start a business when you need to pay rent. That's number one.
Mhm.
But find that something, because we all come to this earth with a talent. Some of us are blessed to find that and just find our way of giving, and it will come because people need certain things and they see your passion when you're protected. For instance, I offer at my place free frame consultation. Free frame consultation. So I'm not sending you away with no knowledge. I am giving you knowledge, whether we can handle it or someone else can handle it. At least you know who's not going to devalue your work, destroy it, or when you come to pick it up, they can't find it.
Right.
Okay?
Right. That is another thing that is huge. And I think that goes across industries. Right now, I need to take my mink coat somewhere to have it repaired, and I'm so terrified in taking it somewhere, leaving it, and understanding how it's put together. You know, they take the strips apart and rebuild it. Whether I'm going to get all my strips or I'm going to come back and they're going to say, "Oh, we can't find your coat." I've heard people. I don't have
I know.
any real expensive pieces of
That's
artwork,
awful.
but I hear people saying the same thing about
It does
their
happen.
artwork.
It is real.
Or having a fear that they're going to trade it out for a lesser quality print.
It happens. I'm going to tell you the ethics in that industry, unless you know, are very strong, because I've had people who've called me and said to me, "Why are you selling that? Why are you doing this?" The reason why, and this is from Mr. Johnson, I'm going to go back to it. You can always tell when you're doing the right thing, when your competitor calls you, because you're cutting into their market now, whether it's, huge or whether it's narrow. Mine, I call narrow because it's neighborhood. It's not national, but it's the same practice. When I got that call and I knew who it was, and I knew his people was coming to me, and I said, "Well, this is what I sell." And he says, "Well, they don't know the difference." And I was like, "Oh, he's even doing it to his own people. They don't even look like me, And I said, "I can't do that." He says, "Yeah, but I don't know why you do. Why would you? They don't know." And I said, "But I know."
Right.
And maybe that's why they're coming to me.
Right.
Well, you can't, sometimes you can't talk to men like that. You know what I mean?
And that is another conversation.
Don't blame on us. Don't blame.
We blame everything on y'all. But you know what? We started a little late, minutes before 8. We're now wrapping up the 9 o'clock hour. I want to thank Ms. Brown for coming in and sharing so much information with us. And I feel like as soon as you're ready, we only touched on a little tip of topics with you. We would love to have you come back when it's convenient.
Well, 35 years is a lot to cover. If I can tell one little story, one little quick one here, because it scared the bejeebies out of me, but it made me happy at the same time.
Okay.
I was approaching my, this is when the neighborhood was in transition as well. I was approaching my 25th year. And I had a little banner in the window that said 25 years. I think it was 20 or 25 years. And there were incidents there, but in this particular case, when people come in, the sunlight is behind them. So I can only see image.
Okay.
If you speak to me, I can recognize a voice, but you have to physically come in so that I can see you. And no one really realizes that, but that's a handicap, a disadvantage, I should say. So I'm working at the counter. My framers come in the evening. And so I never had a real incident there. That means robbery. And my head is down, and my door, I hear the door, it just snaps open. Like somebody is just bursting and not even walking and bursting up, boom. And I said, it's getting ready to go down. And I'm like, what do I reach for now? And I slowly raised my head, and the outline of this woman was standing in the door. And she was yelling. She said, "I can't believe this. You've been here 25 years. And I said, I'm safe now. I said, yes. She said, do you know some of us can't hold a job for 25 days? And you've been here for 25 years? And I said, yes, I have. And that's unbelievable. Walked out, door slammed, disappeared. And I said, you know something? She got a point. So I leave you with that. It's
So,
these chills on my arms.
Well, that is the way we like to close out our stories here at Community Cuts BK. Make sure that you support our local small business in Clinton Hills. You can reach her on Instagram. There is a website on her Instagram for the small business, and she also has a Facebook page.
Yeah, Instagram is good. And get our hours and days and just know that you will get free frame consultation. Bring in any object item that you think you want to have framed, and you will get that. And if we can help you, if we can work with you, fine. Love to have you.
All right. So thank you. Duke, do you want to say anything as we're on our way out? I saw you get all mic'd up and then you chickened out and didn't say anything.
Well, it was a great show, guys. Much blessings to everyone here. I learned a lot. I'm just taking notes and learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and go get your latest copy of the newspaper and read up on our one.
Oh, one last thing. Brooklyn Magazine.
Yes.
Brooklyn Magazine kind of covered How Did I Survive in Clinton Hill? And
Okay.
they are on what is
You can find them on social media.
social media, yes.
I get their newsletter. So yes, they're on the people's internet, Instagram, Facebook. Assuming they have a website.
The name of the newspaper
I
is
said it, Rickie.
Yeah.
I didn't.
It is Our Times Press.
Very good.
Episode volume 30, number 6, page 5, March 5th through 11th of 2026.
Very good,
And
Donnatella.
go support our small business highlight.
Shop us.
Yes, that's the important part. Don't
Shop
just show
us.
up for free consultation, buy something. And you guys, my birthday's March 27th, so buy something and then come see me.
And frame it.
Yes, and that part. Frame it. Better yet, pay for a frame for the artwork that I had, which I'm not ready to put up yet because I'm looking for a new apartment in this
Poor
crazy
Donnatella.
New York City.
Great.
Oh, this is great.
Welcome to Community Cuts. Thank you for this lovely evening. BK is in the house. We truly had a marvelous conversation and in depth as well.